My wife did not believe me when her sister tried to seduce me, until she saw the evidence. My life was calm and happy. I had been married to Emily for 7 years, and we had built what I believed was the perfect family. We had a cozy home, 2 wonderful kids, and a level of trust that I never thought possible. But there was always a shadow lurking nearby, one I tried hard to ignore. Her younger sister, Chloe. Chloe was a well-known model, tall, charismatic, and with the kind of features that turned heads wherever she went. She was always the center of attention at family gatherings, always loved being in the spotlight. At first, I saw her as energetic, maybe a bit too self-assured, but ultimately harmless. However, a few months after Emily and I got married, I started noticing her looks. The first incident felt like a joke. I remember Emily and I hosting a dinner for her family. Emily was making her signature lasagna, and I was helping set the table. Chloe came up to me, standing just a bit too close, leaning in so I could catch the faint scent of her perfume. "That apron really suits you," she said, flashing a playful smile. I laughed it off, though I felt a flicker of discomfort. She quickly turned her attention to Emily, and I decided not to give it much thought. But those moments kept happening. Lingering glances, subtle comments, casual touches during family events. At first, I chalked it up to her flirtatious personality. She seemed like the type who flirted with everyone just for fun. But over time, it became more deliberate. One Christmas, she sat down next to me on the couch, leaning in close enough that I could feel her breath. "Do you really love Emily?" she asked suddenly. "What kind of question is that?" I replied, startled. "Just curious," she said with a shrug. Her eyes sparkled as if she knew something no one else did. After a few years, I knew without a doubt that it wasn't just harmless flirting. One time, Chloe came over to our house when Emily was at work. She said she was just stopping by to grab some documents. I was working in my office when I heard her footsteps upstairs. "Can I come in?" she said, pushing the door open without waiting for an answer. She was wearing a sleek, tight dress that accentuated her figure. She perched herself on the edge of my desk and casually flipped through some papers. "Chloe, I'm busy," I said, trying to keep my tone polite but firm. "I know," she said, "but you can take a break for me, can't you?" Her voice was low, almost a whisper. I stood up, feeling the tension thick in the room. "You should probably go. Emily will be back any minute." She laughed lightly. "Don't be so uptight, David. I know you're curious." "Curious about what?" I tried to keep my voice calm, but inside, I was boiling. "You know," she said with a sly smile. Her hand grazed my shoulder, and I immediately stepped back. "This isn't funny, Chloe. It's wrong," I said firmly. She looked away, seeming disappointed. Then she abruptly stood and walked to the door. "One day, you'll stop pretending." The breaking point came a year later. We were celebrating our son's birthday, and Chloe had been acting off all evening. She avoided most conversations, but her eyes kept darting toward me. Toward the end of the party, I went down to the garage to grab some extra chairs, and suddenly, there she was. "I need to talk to you," she said, shutting the door behind her. "This isn't a good time," I said, trying to move past her, but she stepped in front of me. "Why do you keep running away from me?" she asked, her voice laced with frustration. "Chloe, stop. This isn't right." "I love your sister," I said firmly. She took a step closer and tried to kiss me. I pushed her away, keeping a safe distance. "No, never." Her eyes filled with tears, but instead of looking hurt, she looked angry. "You'll regret this, David. No one rejects me without consequences." I thought that would be the end of it. I assumed Chloe would finally realize that her attempts were futile. But about a week later, I received an email at my work address. It came from an anonymous account, and attached to it was a photo, an explicit one. My face was partially visible in the image, though I knew I had never taken such a photo. Chloe had done it. She had fabricated a fake picture to ruin me. The moment I opened the email, my stomach dropped. It felt like my blood turned to ice as I stared at the photo. It was explicit, vulgar, and completely fake. But it was my face in the frame, awkwardly edited onto someone else's body. For a moment, I just sat there, unable to move. My mind raced with questions. Why would Chloe do this? How far was she willing to go? Would anyone believe me? Then panic set in. This email had been sent to my work account. I immediately forwarded the email to my personal account and deleted it from the work server, hoping no one else had seen it. But I knew that wasn't enough. I needed to act fast. Taking a deep breath, I picked up the phone and called IT. "Hey, this is David in accounting. I think my work email may have been hacked. I just got a disturbing message, and I want to make sure no one else gets anything like it." The IT tech assured me they'd look into it and told me to report any further incidents. I hung up, feeling a knot of dread in my chest. If Chloe was willing to go this far, what else was she capable of? I didn't wait long to confront her. That evening, I drove to her apartment. Emily had taken the kids to visit her mom for the weekend, which gave me the time and the resolve. I needed to handle this. When Chloe opened the door, she looked as glamorous as ever, wearing a sleek robe and sipping a glass of wine. "David," she said with a sly smile. "What a surprise." I pushed past her into the apartment, my anger boiling over. "What the hell is wrong with you?" She closed the door behind me, her expression turning mock innocent. "I'm not sure what you mean." "Don't play dumb, Chloe," I snapped. "You sent that photo to my work. Do you have any idea what that could have done to me? To my career? To my family?" She leaned against the counter, swirling her wine. "I told you, David, you'd regret rejecting me." Her casual tone made me furious. "You're insane. Do you even understand what you've done? This isn't some game. You've crossed a line, Chloe. You need to stop. Now." But instead of apologizing or showing any remorse, she smirked. "Why? So you can keep pretending to be the perfect husband? We both know that's not true." "What are you talking about?" I demanded, my voice rising. "Oh, please," she said, setting her wine glass down and stepping closer to me. "I've seen the way you look at me. You think you're so much better than me, but deep down, you've always wanted this." "You're delusional," I said, stepping back. "And I'm done playing along with this. If you don't stop, I'll tell Emily everything." Her smirk vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating glare. "Go ahead," she said softly. "See if she believes you. But don't think for a second that I'll go down alone. If I'm going to lose David, so will you." The next day, I went to work with knots in my stomach. I thought the worst was behind me, but it wasn't. By lunchtime, whispers had started circulating around the office. People shot me strange looks, some openly avoiding me. It wasn't until my boss, Mr. Green, called me into his office that I realized what had happened. He shut the door behind me and sat down, his face grave. "David, I need you to explain this," he said, sliding a printed photo across the desk. It was the photo, the fake, disgusting image Chloe had sent to my email. "This was forwarded to me anonymously," he continued, "and a few others in management received it as well." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. "Mr. Green, this isn't real. I didn't send this, and I certainly didn't take it. Someone's trying to frame me." His expression was unreadable. "Do you have any proof?" I think I know who did this," I stammered. "It's a personal matter. My sister-in-law. She's been trying to sabotage me and—" He held up a hand, cutting me off. "David, I don't care about your personal drama. What I care about is how this affects the company. Whether this photo is real or fake, it's already spread through the office. People are talking, and it's not a good look for anyone." I tried to stay calm, but my voice cracked. "Please, Mr. Green, give me a chance to prove my innocence. This isn't who I am." He sighed, leaning back in his chair. "I'll give you 48 hours. If you can't clear this up by then, we'll have to take further action. Do you understand?" I nodded, my mind spinning. "Thank you," I managed to say before leaving his office. That evening, I knew I couldn't keep this from Emily any longer. I sat her down after the kids had gone to bed, my hands trembling as I explained everything. Chloe's years of flirting, her attempt to kiss me in the garage, and now the photo. Emily listened in stunned silence, her face pale. When I finished, she sat back, shaking her head. "She did this," she whispered. "Yes," I said, my voice barely audible. "And now she's trying to destroy me." For a moment, she didn't say anything. Then, her expression hardened. "I'm going to talk to her." "Emily, wait." "No," she interrupted, standing up. "This has gone too far. She doesn't get to ruin our lives and walk away like nothing happened." Emily confronted Chloe the following day, but things didn't go as we'd hoped. Chloe denied everything, accusing me of making up the entire story to cover my own tracks. She even showed Emily a fake email thread, supposedly proving that I had been the one pursuing her. When Emily came home that night, she was visibly shaken. "I don't know what to believe anymore," she said quietly. Her words broke something inside me. Chloe had not only attacked my career but had driven a wedge between Emily and me. I barely slept that night. Emily's words, "I don't know what to believe," echoed in my mind. Chloe's lies had not only endangered my career, but shaken the foundation of my marriage. The next morning, I resolved to take back control. If Chloe wanted a fight, she was going to get one. But I wouldn't play by her rules. I started by combing through every interaction I'd ever had with Chloe. Texts, emails, anything that could prove her behavior wasn't as innocent as she claimed. I had deleted many of her messages over the years, not wanting Emily to misunderstand, but I remembered one email from years ago that felt off even then. After searching for hours, I found it buried in an old folder. From Chloe. "Hey David, just wanted to say you looked really good at dinner last night. You've got that hot dad thing going on." Winky face. It wasn't much, but it was something. Next, I dug into the fake photo. I sent it to a trusted IT expert, a college friend named Mark, explaining the situation in broad strokes. "I need to know where this came from," I told him. "If you can trace the IP address or metadata, I'd owe you big time." Mark promised to help, though his tone suggested he thought I was in deep trouble. Armed with the email and growing confidence, I decided to face Chloe one last time. This time, I wasn't going alone. Emily insisted on coming with me, despite her uncertainty about the truth. When we arrived at Chloe's apartment, she greeted us with her signature smugness. "David, Emily, to what do I owe this unexpected pleasure?" Emily didn't waste time. "Cut the crap, Chloe. We know what you're doing, and it stops now." Chloe's expression shifted slightly, but she quickly recovered. "What am I doing? Trying to be a supportive sister while your husband drags my name through the mud? Supportive sister?" I shot back. "You've been sabotaging me for years. You tried to kiss me in the garage, sent that fake photo, and now you're trying to ruin my marriage and my job." Chloe feigned offense, placing a hand on her chest. "I can't believe you'd make up such disgusting lies about me, David." "Emily, are you really going to listen to this?" Emily's voice wavered, but she held firm. "If you're innocent, then you won't mind if we bring this to the police." For the first time, I saw a flicker of fear in Chloe's eyes. "Police?" she repeated, laughing nervously. "Don't be ridiculous. No one's going to believe you over me." "Maybe not," I said, stepping forward, "but I've got enough to make them ask questions." "That photo you sent? It's fake. I have an expert analyzing it as we speak. And this email," I held up my phone to show her message from years ago. "It doesn't paint you as the victim you're pretending to be." Chloe's smug expression melted into panic. "You're bluffing," she said, but her voice wavered. "Try me," I replied coldly. The next day, Mark called me with an update on the photo. "David, you're not going to believe this," he said. "The metadata on that photo? It's been doctored, no question. But here's the kicker. The IP address traces back to Chloe's apartment. That was the proof I needed." Armed with this information, I contacted a lawyer to file a formal complaint for defamation and harassment. It was risky. Chloe wasn't just manipulative, she was unpredictable, but I couldn't let her keep dragging my life through the mud. I also brought the evidence to my boss. Walking into Mr. Green's office, I felt a mix of nerves and determination. "Mr. Green, I need to show you something," I said, handing him a folder with the email from Chloe and the analysis of the photo. He reviewed it in silence, his face gradually softening as he flipped through the pages. "I see," he said finally, setting the folder down. "David, I owe you an apology. This changes things." I exhaled, relief washing over me. "We'll issue a statement to HR to clear your name," he continued, "and I'll personally ensure this doesn't affect your record." "Thank you," I said, my voice thick with gratitude. Chloe's reaction to the lawsuit was explosive. She called Emily in tears, accusing me of destroying the family and painting herself as the victim. But Emily stood by me this time. "Chloe, stop," Emily said firmly during one of their last calls. "I believed you at first because I didn't want to think my own sister would do something like this. But the evidence doesn't lie. David didn't destroy this family. You did." Chloe tried to argue, but Emily hung up. That was the last time we heard from her. The lawsuit never went to court. Chloe settled quietly, agreeing to a formal apology and a financial penalty. It wasn't about the money for me. It was about clearing my name and protecting my family. In the weeks that followed, Emily and I worked hard to rebuild our trust. It wasn't easy. The scars of Chloe's betrayal ran deep, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were on the same team again. As for Chloe, she disappeared from our lives entirely. I heard through the grapevine that her modeling career took a hit after rumors of her behavior began to spread, but I didn't feel sorry for her. She had made her choices, and now she was living with the consequences. Looking back, I realized how close I had come to losing everything. Chloe's actions nearly destroyed my career, my reputation, and my marriage. But in the end, her lies were no match for the truth. Family is supposed to be a source of love and support, not manipulation and betrayal. And while it hurt to cut ties with someone who was once so close, I knew it was the right thing to do. For the first time in years, my life felt peaceful. Chloe was gone, and Emily and I were stronger than ever. She found her fiancé at a party in Spain 2 weeks before the wedding, and he refused to return. I always believed that happiness was built together, brick by brick. For 4 years, Jake and I were a team. He seemed like the person I could share everything with: joys, struggles, dreams. We had spent over a year planning our wedding. Every little detail, from the napkins to our honeymoon, was meticulously arranged. Jake would always say, "This is the most important day of our lives," and I wanted to be perfect. His voice was so convincing, and his eyes sparkled every time we talked about our future together. But 2 weeks before the wedding, Jake disappeared. It happened suddenly. One morning, he told me he had a business trip, a last-minute thing before the wedding. It didn't raise any red flags. Jake often went on short trips for work. But when he didn't answer my calls or respond to messages the next day, I started to worry. Maybe something happened? I thought. His phone was off, and when I called his colleagues, they insisted there wasn't any business trip scheduled. 3 days of searching, sleepless nights, calls to hospitals, asking everyone we knew, and I found nothing. On the 4th day, I called his mom. Her reaction mirrored my own confusion. Jake would never just disappear, she said, but he did, and he had chosen to. After a week of silence, panic started to consume me. Calls from the wedding venue, florists, and even our guests became unbearable. What was I supposed to tell them? That my fiancé had vanished? That I didn't know if the wedding was even happening? I decided I had to act. I remembered Jake texting his best friend, Ryan, the day before he left. They had been chatting about something enthusiastically, but at the time, I didn't pay much attention. "Ryan, do you know where Jake is?" I asked directly. Ryan avoided my gaze. He fiddled with his phone, mumbling half-hearted excuses until I finally snapped. "Is he alive?" Ryan sighed. "He's in Barcelona, with some friends." My eyes widened. Barcelona? Friends? 2 weeks before the wedding, and he decided to go partying? That same evening, I bought a plane ticket. I didn't know what I was going to say when I found him, but I couldn't stay silent any longer. Finding him wasn't hard. His friends clearly didn't expect me to do something so bold. Their social media posts gave it all away: parties, cocktails, nightclubs. And Jake was front and center in every photo, grinning ear to ear. I found him in one of those clubs. It was loud and crowded, with flashing lights and pounding music. He was standing at the bar, wearing a brightly colored shirt, holding a drink, and laughing at some joke his friend had made. "Jake," I called out louder than I expected. He turned. When he saw me, his expression shifted, first to shock, then to something like irritation. "What are you doing here?" he asked, putting his drink down. "Are you serious?" I replied, my voice trembling with anger. 2 weeks before the wedding, and you're here? Acting like you have no responsibilities? No conscience?" Jake shrugged. "I just needed some time. Everything's been so stressful." "Stressful?" I said, barely keeping it together. "Stressful? What about me? Do you even understand what you've done?" He sighed, as if I was the one being unreasonable. "Look, I didn't ask you to come here. This was my decision. And honestly," he looked me straight in the eye, "I'm not sure I even want to get married." Those words hit harder than I could have imagined. I opened my mouth to say something, but it was like the air had been knocked out of me. You don't want to? I whispered. I don't know, he said, his tone so calm it felt like a slap in the face. Maybe this all just got too serious. Maybe I'm not ready. In that moment, I realized that this man, the man I thought I knew and loved, wasn't the same person standing in front of me. He was a stranger, indifferent and cold. Then this is the end, I said, looking him in the eye. I came home with empty hands but a full heart. I knew now that staying with Jake would have been the real mistake. That wedding might have happened, but our life together would have been built on shaky ground. Canceling the wedding was hard, but I gained more than I lost. My freedom and a chance to build a life where there were no lies.